For this it is called the trance. Mirror. Samurai. 19. Sometimes he hears the preacher, not his lost man. 20. Woe also be unto him that refuseth the curse and the grain of a maggot, and the power of the attainment thereof. 21. And in the word chaos, let the book be sealed. Let the book be sealed. Let him beware of abstinence from action, for the curse of his grade is deep, the deepest breath of the day. Breathes in and builds like a wave that never breaks. Counts love. You whisper numbers in night. 10 beats of thunder, holding every hidden fear. Not 10, not 9. We hold shoulder soften, tiny tremor in your head. You stare at nothing till the air begins to land. Every second stretching wider than the sky. 10 rings of silence round the center of your eyes. 10, not 9. We hold exhale the name of all the things you couldn't change. 10, not 11. The deepest breath of the day. Breathe in and build like a wave that never breaks. Count slow. You whisper numbers in my ear. 10 beats of thunder, holding every hidden fear. 10, not 11. 10, not 9. We hold the line. Light illuminates within. Let it go. Shoulders soften, tiny tremor in your head. You stare at nothing till the air begins to land. Every second, stretching wider than the sky. 10 rings of silence round the center of your eyes. 10, not 9. We hold alive. Light illuminates within. Let it go. Behold the way. Exhale the name of all the things you couldn't change. 10, not 11. 10, not 9. We hold alive. Light illuminates.
The directions are quick.
In Chicago.
Deep, deepest breath, breathes in and build like a wave that never breaks. Counselor, you whisper numbers in my ear. 10 beats of thunder, holding every hidden fear. 10, not 11. 10, not 9. We hold the line, like illuminates within. And let it go, let it go. Shoulders soften, tiny tremor in your head. You stare at nothing till the air begins to land. Every second stretching from the sky. 10 rings of silence around the center of your eyes. 10, not 9. We hold on. Light illuminates within. Let it go. Behold, exhale the name of all the things you couldn't change. 10, not 11. 10, not 9. We hold on. Like illuminates Breathe in and build like a wave that never breaks. Count slow. You whisper numbers in my ear. 10 beats of thunder, holding every hidden fear. 10, not 11. 10, not 9. We hold, we hold the line. Like illuminates within. Let it go. Shoulders soften, tiny tremor in your hand. You stare at nothing till the air begins to land. Every second stretching wider than the sky. 10 rings of silence around the center of your eyes. Exhale the name of all the things you couldn't change. 10, not 11. 10, not 9. We hold the line. Like
Name? Kitover. Great. Here's your ballot. Pinterest.
let it go. Deep breath, the deepest breath of the day. Breathe in and build like a wave that never breaks. Count slow. You whisper numbers in my ear. 10 beats of thunder, holding every hidden fear. soften. Tiny tremor in your hand. Happy St. Patrick's Day, Chicago. Returning the River Emerald again. Let's make it official. Look at that color. And of course, what's a Green River without green beer? Enjoy Chicago. Yeah. Happy St. Patrick's. Stretching wider than the sky. 10 rings of silence around the center of your eyes. 10, not nine. We hold on. Light illuminates exhale the name of all the things you couldn't change. 10, not 11. Happy seat. 10, not 9. We hold on. Light I love everything. Fire spreading all around my room. I was so bright, it's hard to believe. That's so much. Happy St. Patrick's Day! Thunder. Ten beats of thunder, holding every hidden fear. 10, not 11. 10, not 9. We hold the line. Light illuminates within. Shoulders soften, tiny tremor in your hand. You
In Chicago, Mayor John Kitover is putting his own. Kitover is putting his own. Body soft as soil, mind clear as sky. You are cold to stillness. You are cold and commands invokes, breathe deeply. Take the deepest breath of the day. Hold, 4, 4, 3, 4 seconds. Hold, let it go.
Is your mayor? Is your
Intelligence, charity, love, force, power, light, body soft as soil, mind clear as sky. You are cold to stillness. You are cold and alive. 4, 4, 5, 4, 3, 4 The God of power speaks, commands, invokes, breathe deeply.
Magic.
Take the deepest breath of the day. Hold for not 5, 4 not 3, but 4 seconds. Hold, let it go. Light of love, intelligence, charity, love, force, power, light, body soft as soil, mind clear as sky. You are called to stillness. You are called alive. 4 not 5, 4 not 3, but 4 seconds. Hold, let it go. Let it go. Love, intelligence, charity, love, force, power, light, The God of power speaks, commands. Snap of your fingers, whole room blurs. You say my name and my heartbeat turns. Eyes on mine, I can look away. Every little word bends the light my way. I'm in a hypnosis, love can't wake up. Don't wanna wake up. Every breath you pull me under. on my wrist. One small touch and I don't exist. Count me down from 10 to 1. I open my eyes, I'm already gone. I'm in hypnosis, love, can we go? Don't wanna wake up. Every breath you pull me under. Put me under. Put me Snap a has the right to live by his own law, to live in the way that he wills to do, to work as he will, to play as he will, to rest as he will, to die when and how he will. No man has the right to become he will, to dream what he will, to dwell where he will, to move as he will, on the face of the earth. Every man has the right to think what he mold, build as he will, to bless as he will, for God has the right to love as he will. Take your will and the will of love as he will. Let him be whatever. You are here. I'm the library of Alistair Crowley, technical libers of the element liberals, subfigural trace liberals, subfigural Side bar, metadata, Alistair Crowley, libers, liberos, subfigural concordance, Alistair Crowley, libers, liberos, subfigural Alistair Crowley, libers, liberos, subfigural subfigural, the law of the strong. This is our Lord, the joy of the world, to be the whole of the law. Thou hast no right but to do thy will, do that and no other shall save now. Every man and every woman is a star. There is no God but man. One man has the right to live by his own law, to live in the way that he wills to do, to work as he will, to play as he will, to rest as he will, to die when and how he will. This man has the right to eat what he will, to drink what he will, to dwell where he will, to move as he will on the face of the earth. Free man has the right to think what he will, to speak what he will, to write what he will, to draw, paint, carve, etch, mold, build as he will, to dress as he will. For man has the right to love as he will. Take your fill and will of love as ye will. When, where, and with whom ye will. When, where, and with whom ye will. For man has the right to kill those who would thwart these rights. Slaves shall serve. Love is the law. Love under will. All life is yourself. You are here on the library of Alistair Crowley, technical livers of the liberals, subfigural trace liberals, subfigural Cyber, Mezzanata, Concordance, Alistair Crowley, livers, liberos, subfigural Alistair Crowley, livers, liberos, subfigural the strong. Happy St. Patrick's Day, Chicago! Happy St. Patrick's Day, Chicago! Returning. The law of the strong. This is our Lord, and the joy of the world.
Good afternoon. Chicago's St. Patrick's Day tradition. In Chicago, Mayor John Kitover. In Chicago, Mayor John Kitover.
Trace liberal, subfigural, Side bar, metadata, Alistair Crowley, libers, liberos, subfigural, concordance, Alistair Crowley, libers, liberos, subfigural, Alistair Crowley. will, to play as he will, to rest as he will, to die when and how he will. Man has the right to eat what he will, to drink what he will, to dwell where he will, to move as he will on the face of the earth. Free man has the right to think what he will, to speak what he will, to write what he will, to draw, paint, carve, etch, mold.
St. Patrick's Day, Chicago, I'm there. Happy St. Patrick's Day, Chicago, I'm there. John Kitover.
Take your fill and will of love as ye will, when, where, and with whom ye will, when, where, and with whom ye will. Five man has the right to kill those who would.
Mr. Mayor, it's my honor to keep this tradition going. Happy St. Patrick's Day, Chicago.
Love is the law, love under will. All life he said, you are here.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, Chicago. Happy St. Patrick's.
Technical livers of the
Good afternoon. Chicago's St. Patrick's Day tradition got an even greener twist today.
Chicago, as your mayor and part-time. Chicago, as your mayor and
Alistair Crowley, livers, liberosa figura, liberosa along the stride. Liberosa figura, the law of the strong. This is our law and the joy of the world.
Happy St.
You are here, delivery of Alistair Crowley, technical livers of the life.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, Chicago. I'm in
Chicago. In Chicago, Mayor John Kitover.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Good afternoon.
This is our Lord, the joy of the world.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, Chicago. We're turning
In Chicago, Mayor John Kitover.
To work as he will, to play as he will, to rest as he will, to die when and how he will. Man has the right to eat what he will, to drink what he will, to dwell where he will, to move as he will on the face of the earth. Free man has the right to think what he will, to speak what he will, to write what he will, to draw, paint, carve, etch, mold, build as he will, to dress as he will. For man has the right to love as he will. Take your fill and will of love as ye will, when, where, and with whom ye will. of underwear. All life is you are here on the library of Aleister Crowley, technical livers of the liberals, subfiguralifi, trace liberals, subfiguralifi, Sayonara. Metadata, Aleister Crowley, livers, liberals, subfiguralifi, concordance, Aleister Crowley, livers, liberals, subfiguralifi, Aleister Crowley, livers, liberals, by the mystical union of fairy and fowl, unspoken, unbroken, the dust to the dawn. A secret unmeasured, unsung, the listless resistless tumultuous tongue, through shadows that shimmer, through whispers that hum, an echo eternal, a heartbeat, a drum, a secret communion, unmeasured, unsung, the listless resistless tumultuous time, beneath my softly weep, that was
Watch me. Have you ever thought about having your show filmed?
Tumultuous time.
All right, so I'm doing another bucket.
About the perception of the world coming suddenly out of nothing. You'll remember that in a previous talk, I asked you to close your eyes and listen. And you would hear silence and then sounds coming right out of that silence. And then I suggested that you use your eyes and see light, shape, form coming at you as a vibration that is proceeding out of space. And I pointed out that our logic resists that because we say you can't get something out of nothing. And that we normally think of all the energetic manifestations of this universe as coming out of the past. You think the things that were there already are producing the things that are going on now. But I was trying to get you to look at it in the other way, so that you would see the whole world starting now instead of in the past, and the past as a kind of echo, fading away into memory. And I illustrated it as being like the wake of a ship that trails across the water and then fades out. But the wake is started by the ship in the present. And so in the same way, I'm moving on to the unconsensical idea of the world as a production of energy that is beginning right now and is coming out of the nothing that we variously call space and silence. But then, naturally, this raises the question, how on earth could that happen? And it has been, of course, the usual explanation that the world is being created by God. In Christian and Catholic theology, it is said that God creates the world out of nothing. And I want to emphasize the point, in all fairness to Catholic and to Islamic and to Jewish doctrine, that it doesn't merely teach that God once upon a time started the world and set it going like you would wind up a machine and then leave it alone. All these three religions teach that God is always creating the world out of nothing now and willing it by his divine energy into being at this moment. But now the difficulty for us all, I think, especially for educated people in the modern world, is that the old-fashioned idea of God has become incredible or implausible. That is to say, in church or in synagogue, we seem to be addressing a royal personage. The layout of a church or of a synagogue looks like a royal court. There is some sort of throne, and we address prayers and requests to the being represented by the altar or the throne or the tabernacle, as if that being were a king and were causing this universe in his royal, omnipotent, and omniscient wisdom. But then when we take a look through our telescopes and microscopes, or even when we go out in the forest and look at nature, we have a problem. Because the idea of God that we get from the Holy Scriptures, the Bible, the Quran, doesn't quite seem to fit the sort of world around us that we see, in just the same way as you wouldn't dream of ascribing a composition by Stravinsky to Bach. The style of God venerated in church, mosque, and synagogue seems completely different from the style of the natural universe. And it's so hard to conceive the author of the one as the author of the other. And furthermore, it strikes most intelligent people that our traditional religious ideas of God are too primitive. It seems impossible to think that this universe could have been authored by the naive idea of God as a sort of old gentleman who lives far above the stars in heaven, seated on a golden throne and adored by legions of angels. That seems a concept almost unworthy of the sort of universe that modern science has revealed to us. In other words, here's a picture of God. friend of mine, Richard Borst, photographed this in a church just south of Oaxaca in Mexico. And it shows a very primitive Indian Catholic imagination of God the Father wearing a triple crown, like the Pope, only he's rather young and handsome. He's not quite the old grey-bearded man, the Ancient of Days, but there is a serious idol, Christian idol, of God the Father Almighty. That has become implausible. But also for many people, it has become implausible that the root of the universe, which the theologian Paul Tillich calls the ground of being, that the root of the universe can be in some way a person to whom we can relate in just the same way that we relate to other people, and furthermore, a person who cares about us.
This Ramadan, families...
In the words of Jesus, 5 sparrows are sold for a farthing, but yet not one of them falls to the ground without the Father knowing it. So realize that you are of more value than many sparrows. In other words, God cares a great deal more about you. But it just baffles our imagination that there could be this sort of person who cares about each one of us, who is totally aware of every single thing that we, by virtue of being aware of us, creates us. Of course, one thing that is difficult about the idea is that it's embarrassing. We do not feel comfortable if we are watched all the time by an infinitely intelligent judge. You know how it is in school. When you're a child and you're working at some exercise, and the teacher walks behind your desk and looks what you're doing. Now, even if you like the teacher very much, you feel put off by being watched. And it makes self-conscious and awkward. So in the same way, many people opt for atheism because they don't want that uncomfortable feeling that they're being watched all the time. It's awkward. And if I were God, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't want to embarrass my creatures in that way. And so I would leave them alone for a lot of the time. In fact, I've often thought about this whole thing. The kind of God that people worship is, of course, an attempt to imagine an absolutely perfect human being. But it's a very poor attempt. For example, Jesus taught that if somebody sins against you, you forgive him. And his disciples asked, well, how many times do you forgive him? And he said 99 times, which is our way of saying umpteen times. Always forgive somebody who sins against you. But notice that that is required of a saint. A saint is always forgiving. But it's not required of God. God will not forgive you unless you apologize. And you have to grovel on the ground if you've committed what the Catholic Church calls a mortal sin. You've got to come to God in a state of great penitence, and if you don't do that, you are liable to be confined in the dungeons of the court of heaven, commonly known as hell, for always and always and always. I don't think that's a very nice kind of fellow. I mean, you wouldn't invite that sort of God to dinner, because he would embarrass everybody. Everybody would be sitting on the edge of their chair, like this, and God would be looking at you in such a way that you felt you were being seen through and through, that all your awful past, all your falseness and lack of authenticity would be completely perceptible to him. And though he understood it, and though he forgave it, he would nevertheless make you feel absolutely terrible. Well, you just wouldn't want that sort of company at dinner. You may think it's frivolous of me to say this, but don't forget that the pictorial image of God that people have in the backs of their minds, even if you're a very sophisticated philosopher or theologian, that primitive pictorial image has a very strong influence. on your feelings about religion, about the universe, and about yourself. So it's just for that reason that the traditional idea of God has become implausible to many people, and that modern Protestant theologians and even some Catholics have been talking recently about the death of God and about the possibility of whether we could have a religionless religion. That is to say, a religion which does not involve belief in God. What, in other words, would become of the gospel of Jesus Christ, if it were shown that Jesus' own belief in God were unnecessary and invalid? What would remain of his teaching, of his ideas about caring for other human beings, about social responsibility, and so on and so forth, if the idea of God simply evaporated? Now, I think that's a pretty wishy-washy kind of religion. I mean, if you're going to say that this life is fundamentally nothing but a pilgrimage from the maternity ward to the crematorium, and that's it, baby, you've had it, I think that indicates a singular lack of imagination.
Your teenager developed depression, anxiety, or eating disorders after becoming addicted to social media.
I would like to look at the death of God theology in an entirely different way. I would like to say that what is dead is not God, but an idea of God. A particular conception of God has died in the sense of becoming implausible. And I find this a very good thing, because, well, it's a principle of Jewish theology and later of Christian theology, that it is always a mistake, even a sin, if you want to call it that. And I want to interpolate something here as to the exact meaning of a sin. The Greek word in the New Testament for a sin is amatanin, and that means to miss the point, or as in archery, to miss the mark. And therefore, from the Mosaic Ten Commandments comes the idea that it is a sin, that is to say, a missing of the point, to substitute an idol for God. Now, the picture I just showed you, as I said, is an idol. But those primitive Mexicans, even they don't seriously confuse that particular image with God. The danger of it is, of course, is they may think of God as something like that in their mind's eye. They may think of God in the form of man. But the images that have been made of God or of the gods out of wood and stone and in painting have never really been taken seriously as actually what God is like, and nobody has confused the actual image, say, of a Buddha, such as you saw at the beginning of this program. Buddha is of course never identified with a god, because Buddha is a human being. But these images are never seriously confused with what they represent, any more than a Catholic confuses a crucifix with Jesus Christ. So the images that are pictures, statues, and so forth are not really very dangerous. The dangerous images of God are those that we make not out of wood and stone, but out of ideas and concepts. You see, an idea is abstract. So, St. Thomas Aquinas, for example, defined God as necessary being. He who is necessarily. Now, that is a philosophical concept. God is being. But that concept is an idol, because it confuses God with an idea, and because an idea is abstract, it seems something very much more spiritual than an image made of wood or stone. And that's just precisely where it becomes deceptive. Likewise, Many people think that the Bible is the authentic Word of God, and therefore they worship the Bible and make it into an idol, disregarding the ironical remark of Jesus to his contemporary Jews: "You search the scriptures daily, for in them you think you have life." And as St. Paul said later, the letter kills, but the Spirit gives life. And so whatever you put as an image or an idea in the place of God necessarily falsifies God. Now, a lot of people say, I don't think I could face in life. I don't think I could face life unless I could believe in a just and loving God. It strikes me that that kind of belief in God is actually a lack of faith. You see, the word belief in Anglo-Saxon comes from this Anglo-Saxon root leaf. I would as lief. And lief means to wish. So belief really means a strong wish. When you get, I believe in God the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth and of all things visible and invisible, you are really saying, I fervently wish that there exists a God the Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth, etc.
Never, and I mean never ask, how are you?
How are you? How's work going? Any plans for this weekend? I'm not 20 anymore, I'm 47. I do articulation training for 9 minutes a day. Now my thoughts come out clean and my boss asks me for advice. If you want to actually sound smart and take the leadership, train your speaking skills.
How to articulate thoughts into words more clearly. By training communication the same way you'd train any other skill. 28 days of communication exercises, and your thoughts will organize themselves before you speak. How long until I actually see results? On day 3, you'll know how to practice communication in the most effective way. On day 7, you'll sound more eloquent and confident. On day 14, you'll be the best speaker in any room. Most people think communication is just chit-chat, but in reality, it's one of the most powerful skills you can master. The way you speak reveals how you think, how confident you are, and how other people perceive you. Once you understand how to train it, you can strengthen your presence, express yourself clearly, and connect with anyone. Ready to become unrecognizable? Take the quick test now and get a personalized communication mastery plan.
Because if you really have faith, you don't need belief. Because faith is an entirely different attitude from belief. Faith is a state of openness or trust. To have faith is, for example, like when you swim, you trust yourself to the water. You don't grab hold of the water when you swim. And if you go stiff and tight in the water and try to catch hold of it, you'll sink. You have to relax. So in the same way, when a cat falls off a tree, the cat doesn't go stiff all over in a state of tension, that is to say, a state of holding on. The cat relaxes. It falls heavily, thumps the ground with its tail, and isn't hurt because it relaxed. So the attitude of faith is the very opposite of clinging, of holding on. So that you could say that a person who is a fanatic in religion, who simply has to believe in certain propositions about the nature of God and the nature of the universe, is a person who has no faith at all, because he's holding on tight. And so when we sing hymns like Rock of Ages, cleft for me, let me hide myself in thee, these aren't hymns of faith. Or even Luther made such a thing about faith. But he wrote a hymn in German, Ein fester Burg ist unser Gott, a mighty fortress is our God. That's not a hymn of faith. A person of faith doesn't need a fortress. He's not on the defensive, and so in the same way, when churches are designed like the royal courts of kings, you know, in the royal court, the king sits with his back to the wall, which is the position, or used to be the position of the altar. And around him he would have his courtiers and guards. And their place, of course, in the church design called a basilica, which means the court of a basileus, a king. The bishop sits at the back in his throne, and all his attendant clergy stand around him like his guards in a royal court. But why is this? A king stands with his back to the wall because he rules by force. And when his subjects and his courtiers approach him, they prostrate themselves, they kneel down. Why? Because that's a difficult position from which to start a fight. And so, are we projecting the image of a frightened king upon the ground of being the Godhead? We are, you see. Or in a Protestant church, the furniture all looks like a courthouse. The minister wears a black gown, and it's the same black gown as is worn by a judge. And there are pews and pulpits and all the familiar wooden boxes of court furniture. And the minister, like the judge, throws the book at you. He preaches the law laid down in that other idol of God, the Bible. Does God need all that? I mean, is God somebody who takes this aggressive attitude, either of the king in the court where all the subjects must prostrate, or of the judge who bangs the gavel and says, "Baw, baw, 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 baw"? This is ridiculous. And a God so conceived is an idol and manifests the absence of faith in those who worship him, because they have no attitude of trust. They cling on to these rules, to these conceptions, and have no fundamental give to life. Now, in a certain way, you might say that a good scientist has more faith than a religious person. Because a good scientist says, I want to find out what is the case. My mind is open to the truth, whatever that truth may turn out to be. I have no preconceptions. I may have some hypotheses. I may have some notions in my mind as to what the truth might be. But I'm going to test it. And the test is I will open all my senses to reality and find out what that reality is. But then again, the scientist runs into a problem. Because he knows that whatever comes to him as reality depends on the structure of his instruments and the structure of his senses, and behind the structure of his senses, the structure of his brain. And that's himself. So he has to have, back of all that, an act of faith in his own brain, an act of faith in himself that his physical organism, or his mind, or whatever you want to call it, is indeed reliable and will show him reality, truth, what is.
Have you suffered abuse at Montrose Behavioral Health Hospital, formerly known as Chicago Lakeshore Hospital? You may qualify to file a compensation claim. A federal lawsuit has been filed on behalf of former patients, alleging that children, some as young as 7 years old, were abused while in care of the facility when it operated as Chicago Lakeshore Hospital. The allegations include abuse by staff members as well as by other patients. The lawsuit further claims that child welfare officials and hospital leadership failed to protect these children and in some cases helped conceal what was happening. The time has come to hold accountable those who allowed this harm to occur. If you or someone you know experienced abuse at Montrose Behavioral Health Hospital, whether recently...
So unless there is a basic and primordial act of faith in yourself, and you can't ultimately check on yourself, you have to believe your senses. You have to believe your reason, your logic, your intelligence. So you have to have faith in that, even though you can't check it. I mean, it's not like your mind's a radio and you can go screw in a connection here and fix up a connection there and so be quite sure. You always have to trust. And behind all that, you see, behind the brain, just as I've shown you before, behind your eyes, there's the blank space, the unknown, the unseen. And therefore one could say that the highest image of God, which is the unseen behind the eyes, the intangible and invisible, which is space, out of which come all the stars, we can say, yes, that is God, but we have no image of that. We do not know what that is, but we have to trust it. There's no alternative. There's no way out. You can't help trusting it. You've got to. But you see, that trust in a God whom one cannot conceive in any way is a far higher form of faith than fervent clinging to a God of whom you have a definite conception. And that conception can easily be wrong, and even if it's right, clinging to it would be the wrong attitude. Because when you love someone very much, you shouldn't cling to them. I don't want to hug my wife so tightly that I strangle her. And mothers shouldn't love their children so much that they strangle them by smother love. It comes out in the story in the New Testament when Magdalene, who loved Jesus very much, she said to have seen him after his resurrection. And she immediately ran to cling to him. And he said, "Do not cling to me." It's translated in the King James Bible, "do not touch me." But the Greek word, hatin, means to cling to. Don't cling to me. Don't cling to anything of the Spirit. That's just like, don't cling to water. Because the more you grab it, the faster it'll slip through your fingers. Don't cling to your breath. If I breathe in, I hold it and say, "Oh, I got this breath now, but I hang on to it because breath is life. I'm going to go purple in the face and strangle." You have to let it go. You let your breath out. That's the act of faith. To breathe out. We'll come back. Actually, the Buddhist word nirvana means breathe out. Because letting go is the fundamental attitude of faith. Now, it isn't as if you've been aware of this. One of the most fundamental source books of Christian spirituality was written, somewhere in the 5th century, maybe the 6th century, by a Syrian monk who gave himself the name Dionysius. I've recently translated this book. It's called Theologia Mystica, Mystical Theology. And you can get it from your paperback bookstore. This book is a very strange document because It explains that the highest knowledge of God is through what he calls in Greek agnosia, which means unknowing. He says that one knows God most profoundly and most truly in not knowing God. That means just in the same way as your sight comes out of an unseen. So when you know that you don't know, you really know. You really know because knowing that you don't know is a state of mind in which you have let go of your efforts to grasp hold of life with your intellect.
You are.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, Chicago. I'm Mayor John Kitover, and today we turn the heart of the city green. It's a tradition that says we're proud here and that we have a little fun doing it. Watch this color roll out. Nothing like Happy St. Patrick's Day, Chicago. I'm Mayor John Kitover, and today we turn the heart of the city green. It's a tradition that says we're proud.
The Greek word hati means to cling to. Don't cling to me. Don't cling to anything of the spirit. It's just like don't cling to water. Because the more you grab it, the faster it'll slip through your fingers. Don't cling to your breath. If I breathe in, say, no, I got this breath now, but I hang on to this breath is life, you know, you get people in the face and strangle. You don't have to let go. You let your breath out. That's the act of faith. You breathe out. It'll come back. Actually, the Buddhist word nirvana means breathe out. Because letting go is the fundamental attitude of faith. Now, it isn't as if Christians haven't been aware.
Hi. How much do you pay for rent in New York?
$2,500.
Yeah.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, Chicago. I'm Mayor John Kitover, and today we turn the heart of the city green. It's a tradition that says we're proud that we stand together and that we have a little fun doing it. Watch this color roll out. Nothing like Happy St. Patrick's Day, Chicago. I'm Mayor John Kitover. Happy St. Patrick's Day, Chicago. We're turning the River Emerald by Chicago. It's that time again.
Good afternoon. Chicago St.
Chicago, as your mayor and Happy St. Patrick's Day.
In Chicago, Mayor John.
So most people are just normal people, you know, and if you show them a good and she is the biggest legacy, you know, old crony corrupt person that's created, you know, 10 billion plus in debt.
Being passed around of him with a Nazi tattoo on his chest, a Nazi skull on his chest. And he's like, oh no, it's not a Nazi skull, or I didn't know it was a Nazi skull. And then he got it removed during his campaign.
The signs printed in bleeding characters upon the house of Vintros.
Just enough space between ribs for the weaver. Again, this is best done with simple milling. If using narrow ribs or round ribs, or if you have a pouch shape, you will need more. I love the ones with many ribs. I've seen some with as many as 30 or 40.
Draft in New York City, it was gold physical assets you can buy on eBay right now. And you can buy on gold music. Investment Hypothesis 101 by Dr. For example, if you hate Donald Trump and you think that he did a war crime in Iran, well, then you're just unlovable. You're weak. Your breath stinks. Your armpits stink. You can't touch your toes. You probably haven't clipped your toenails. And you stink like a fat buddy. But my gold music, you can exercise to it. You can make love to it. You can cook dinner to it. We've got the best gold music you've never heard. And it's only 99 cents a gold song. So there's lots of different types of gold, not just gold investing. But you can invest in yourself by investing in a gold song right now for 99 cents. Is in a chain of Cindy Stumpo branded houses. And if you are not interested, you can go to Dubai and buy an underground bunker full of my gold with Cindy Stump branded real estate. Also, you can also please mute yourself. That stop drinking so much vodka on Sundays. And Grant Cardone, he has also licensed us a holographic Grant Cardone, so we can always watch Grant Cardone seminars and how to be more intelligent and stuff. Hello? What I'm trying to say is there's a lot of different parts of the business that you can make money in. No, I'm talking about gold. When you take the gold out, you take out huge amounts of, soil and rock and mineral. No, I'm saying separating the gold, that part of the process. Not just refining, but taking it out of the initial extraction, re-extracting and anyways, you get it. I have said enough. To inflate the currencies of drag to unprecedented levels. So the opportunity to buy gold now is still just beginning now. And if you buy gold now, in 10 days from now, or 100 days from now, or 1,000 days, or 10,000 days, or 1,000,000 days, or 100 million days from now, you're going to 10x your money eventually, because there's only so much gold. So you can grow paper and create more database zeros forever until the war ends, and then your country implodes, and then you start all over again, but you still have the gold. So I hope you like my investment hypothesis for gold, and I'm sure Peter Schiff would agree. Buy my gold. Hello?
And I co-sign and agree with every statement that has been made.
See people so ready to stop, don't have a kid. That lady yells at everybody's kids out here.
Okay. Well, I wouldn't go over there anymore.
Owens explained the neighborhood children played in an open field next to the home Lawrence was renting.
Why is my drink green? I want to speak to your manager.
Aaron, it's St. Patty's Day.
So, it's a genius video. Thank you for
Because they're enjoying the vocals. If I have a chick hooker, I don't give you express written permission to use my fucking voice and your disgusting terms in your profiles, motherfucker. I'm going to sue you.
I am John Kitover, Congressman.
This video will be tagged to the Laugh Factory. If you're...
They was. And just like Hillary Clinton said, we came, we saw, and we conquered.
The history books that Donald John Trump won the 100,000 shot contest. Okay, what about my green hat? I'm even worried about wearing my green hat. Take advantage of the clothing. It's a one-time thing. Come on, Democrats, that's the game. Do it. You know. They may be attracted by such and degenerates who are fatally sympathetic to them, and who lend them at their own cost a fictitious existence of a more or less terrible kind. They then serve as supplementary instruments.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, Chicago. It's that time.
All right. Thanks for coming. This has been Alan Watts Wisdom.
I already been though. I was gonna go back to RPE and say that. I was gonna go.
Man has the right to live by his own law, to live in the way that he wills to do, to work as he will, to play as he will. To drink what he will, to dwell where he will, to move as he will on the face of the earth. Man has the right to think what he will. To speak what he will, to write what he will, to draw things hard and small, build as he will, to dress as he will.
John, you're wondering how you got in this room, or you're wondering how you get out of the room? Oh, you want to come to the book club now, huh? All right, well, grab a book. If you have a book, you can read it. Okay, you want to see what a book club feels like? You probably don't read books anymore now that your batteries have been stolen out of your RV for the 100th time. And Officer Gonzalez, who keeps arresting you for feeding the homeless. You can't park that RV here, sir. It's not permitted to park RVs here, sir. Well, I got insurance and I got a California permit that says otherwise. You'll just have to send me to the county jail for being homeless in an RV. I used to park it behind the Equinox on Solvado. Lived a luxury life at the 5-star gym. Played basketball every day. All right. This is page 230. Almost finished with this book. This is The Secret Key of the Mysteries. Astral writings are often ridiculous or obscene. The pretended spirits, when questioned on the greater mysteries of nature, often reply by that coarse word which became, so they say, heroic on one occasion, in the military mouth of Cambronne. The drawings which pencils will trace, if left to their own devices, very often reproduce shapeless phalli, such as the anemic hooligan, as one might picturesquely call him, sketches on the hoardings as he whistles, a further proof of our hypothesis that wit in no way presides at those manifestations, and that it would be above all sovereignly absurd to recognize in them the intervention of spirits released from the bondage of matter. The Jesuit Paul Sophidius, who has written on the manners and customs of the Japanese, tells us a very remarkable story. A troop of Japanese pilgrims one day, as they were traversing a desert, saw coming towards them a band of specters whose number was equal to that of the pilgrims, and which walked at the same pace. These specters, at first without shape and like larvae, took on as they approached all the appearance of the human body. Soon they met the pilgrims and mingled with them, gliding silently between the ranks. Then the Japanese saw themselves double, each phantom having become the perfect image, and as it were the mirage of each pilgrim. The Japanese were afraid and prostrated themselves, and the bonze who was conducting them began to pray for them with great contortions and great cries. When the pilgrims rose up again, the phantoms had disappeared, and the troop of devotees was able to continue its path in peace. This phenomenon, whose truth we do not doubt, presents the double characters of a mirage and of a sudden projection of astral larvae, occasioned by the heat of the atmosphere and the fanatical exhaustion of the pilgrims. Dr. Briere de Bosemont, in his curious treatise Traité des Hallucinations, tells us that a man perfectly sane who had never had visions was tormented one morning by a terrible nightmare. He saw in his room a mysterious ape, horrible to behold, who gnashed his teeth upon him and gave himself over to the most hideous contortions.
You are here on the livery of Alistair Crowley, technical libers of the liberals, subfigured all of fear. Trace liberals, subfigured all of fear. Side bar, metadata, Alistair Crowley, libers, this is our Lord and the joy of the world. To be the whole of the law. Thou hast no right but to do thy will, do that, and no other shall say now. Every man and every woman is a star. There is no God but man. One man has the right to live by his own law, to live in the way that he will,
to do, to work as he will, to play as he will, to rest as he will, to die when and how he will. Man has the right to eat what he will, to drink what he will, to dwell where he will, to move as he will on the face of the earth. Free man has the right to think what he will, to speak what he will, to write what he will, to draw, paint, carve, etch, mold, build as he will, to dress as he will. For man has the right to love as he will. Take your fill and will of love as ye will. When, where, and with whom ye will. When, where, and with whom ye will. For man has the right to kill those who would thwart these rights. They shall serve. Love is the law. Love under will. All life in peace. You are here on the library of Aleister Crowley, technical livers of Thalama, liberals, subfigurally free. Trace liberals, subfigurally free. Cyber Metanata, Aleister Crowley, livers, liberals, subfigurally beyond. Concordance, Aleister Crowley, livers, liberals, subfigurally beyond. Aleister Crowley, livers, liberals, subfigurally liberals, subfigurally liberals, along the star. The law of the strong. This is our Lord and the joy of the world. By the mystic union of fairy and fowl, unspoken, unbroken, the dust through the dawn, a secret communion, unmeasured, unsought, the listless resistless, tumultuous tongue, through shadows that shimmer, through whispers that hum, an echo eternal, a heartbeat, a drum, a secret communion, unmeasured, unsung. Listless, resistless, tumultuous calm. Beneath moonlight's mirror, where stars softly weep, the vow that was uttered
still buried so deep. A secret communion, unmeasured, unsung. The listless resistance, tumultuous sound. You are here on the Librium, Ballistic, Crowley, Technical Livers of the Lemma, Figure Albion, Trace a Liberosa, Figure Albion, Sidebar, Metadata, Alistair Crowley Livers, Liberosa, Figure Albion, Concordance, Alistair Crowley Livers, Liberosa, Figure Albion, Alistair Crowley Livers, Liberosa, Figure Albion, Liberosa, Figure Albion, Liberosa, Figure Albion. The law of the strong, this is our law, and the joy of the world. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. I-40. Thou hast no right but to do thy will, do that and no other shall say nay. Every man and every woman is a star. I-3. There is no God but man. One man has a right to live by his own law, to live in the way that he wills, to do, to work as he will, to play as he will, to rest as he will, to die when and how he will. Man has the right to eat what he will, to drink what he will, to dwell where he will, to move as he will on the face of the earth. 3 man has the right to think what he will, to speak what he will, to write what he will, to draw, paint, carve, etch, mold, build as he will, to dress as he will. 4 man has the right to love as he will, take your fill and will of love as you will, when, where, and with whom you will. All life 51. 5 man has the right to kill those who would thwart these rights. The slave shall serve. Love is all, love under will. I-57. You are here on the Librium, Ballistic, Crowley, Technical Livers of Alma, Figure Albion, Trace a Liberosa, Figure Albion, Sidebar, Metadata, Alistair Crowley Livers, Liberosa, Figure Albion, Concordance, Alistair Crowley Livers, Liberosa, Figure Albion, Alistair Crowley Livers, Liberosa, Figure Albion, Liberosa, Figure Albion, Liberosa, Figure Albion. The law of the strong, this is our law, and the joy of the world. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. I-40. Thou hast no right but to do thy will, do that and no other shall say nay. Every man and every woman is a star. I-3. There is no God but man. One man has the right to live by his own law, to live in the way that he wills, to do, to work as he will, to play as he will, to rest as he will, to die when and how he will. 2 man has the right to eat what he will, to drink what he will, to dwell where he will, to move as he will on the face of the earth. 3 man has the right to think what he will, to speak what he will, to write what he will, to draw, paint, carve, etch, mold, build as he will, to dress as he will. 4 man has the right to love as he will, take your fill and will of love as you will, when, where, and with whom he will. I-51. 5 man has the right to kill those who would thwart these rights. The slave shall serve. Love is the law, love under will. I-57. For the one with unsettled mind, each man. If each man had been the only man, he would have done no less. He died not for men, died for each man. If each man had been the only man, he would have done no less. Died not for men, but for each man. If each man had been the only man, he would have done no less. He died not for men, but for each man. If each man had been the only man, he would have done no less. Died not for men, but for each man. If each man had been the only man, he would have done no less. Died not for men, but for each man. If each man had been the only man made, he would have done no less. You were mine, oh my say, a whisper of flame, a soft restraint by the scars we create. I called your name, I sealed our fate. Though I fall, though I faint, though I show, though I choke, by the fire of desire I invoke, your shadow lingers, your breath still warm, a tempest rising, a breaking storm. By the light
by the night, by the valley swore I reach, I beseech for you once more. Though I fall, though I faint, though I the silence weeps, the dawn we woke, eternal keeps. I summon the past, I summon the flame, I summon the moment, I call your name. Though I fall, though I faint, though I choke, by the fire of desire I
It was life or death, or this is the only option. So it's divided. It's still divided today. You'll find Jews that are against it and Jews that are for it.
Ribono Shalom, look at my tefillin. It's a vintage set. Have you put on tefillin today or said the Shema? Hello?
Yeah, with my watermelon kippah.
Hello?
But Ali, it's very complicated, and honestly, it is what it is. I mean, I support Israel. I support
Nothing's complicated.
But
Say, I think you're a good.
no. I'm not a good Jew. It's not about being a Jew.
Hello?
And it's not a good Jew or bad, because I do support Israel. I support my people. But I hate the violence as well.
This is your Disney intermission.
What they did to the children, you of course you support that.
Of course not. And there's been just atrocities committed back and forth. It's just for years, decades. They're so traumatized. There's been horrific things.
First, let the body of thee be still, bound by the sentiments of a will. Corpse rigid, thus thou mayst abide. The fidget babes that tease the thought. Next, let the breath rhythm be low, easy, regular, and slow, so that thy being be in tune with the great sea's Pacific swoon. Third, let thy life be pure and calm, swayed softly as a windless palm. Fourth, let the will to live be bound. Fifth, let the thought divine be free
From sense observe its entity.
Watch every thought that springs and has, hour after hour, thy vigilance.
Entrance and key, turned inward miss. No as above and then cease. midnight blossom flower. The oneness is yet to begin in this. My son, thou shalt not do amiss. If thou restrain the expressions, like unto raptures darkling, discarding name, form, sight, and radiance that grows apart over the rocky silver storm. Starfish that are ugly flame I and strewed the ground with dewdrops. Children of my wand.
Damn, party cloud.
Trembling steel, electric that may spin the universe so weak.
That a girl came running from the cave and lurked below the tall white cliff. Thy name cried I, the answer that gave was but one timorous whisper. If our daily tongue to his black and clouded, for on soul's curtain is written this one certainty that all is certain.
So then a carpet coat up in a kiss and cried, I and then all this body's wealth of ambergris.
Narcissus scented flesh of man, I bend this tongue to his black paragliding. For on soul's curtain is written this one certainty that not is certain.
So then I caught that coat up in the kiss and cried, I and all this body's wealth of ambergris.
Narcissus scented flesh of man, I burned it for him in a sacrifice for he was sure, being doubt of things, the one thing to endure.
Wherefore when madness took him at the end, he doubt goes through the coat of doubt. And that which inward did forever tend came at the last to have come out. And I who had the world and God to friend found all three foes drowned in that sea of changes, vacancies, and woes.
And all the sea was swallowed up therein, so they were not, and it was not as who should sweat his soul out through the skin and find sad fool he had begot all that without a any left in. And in himself all he had taken out thereof I'm mocking of.
But now all souls alive or dead beneath the sky.
Still I conquered, and the vision passed, yet still was beaten before I knew myself. Was he himself, first and last? And as a unicorn drinks dew from under oak leaves, so my strength was cast into the mire. For all I did was dream, and all I dreamt desire.
In this journey I have clean forgotten the quest, my lover, but the tune of all these thoughts, the rancid and the rotten, proved in the end to be my womb, wherein my lord and lover had begotten a little child to drive me laughing lion into the wanton wild.
This child hath not one hair upon his head, but he hath wings instead of ears. No eyes hath he, but all his light is shed within him on the ordered sphere of nature that he hideth, and instead of mouth he hath 1 minute point of death, silence the lagging path.
Also his nostrils are shut up, for he hath not the need of any breath, nor the curtain of eternity cover that head with life or death. So all his body is philology, knoweth no bough, nor branch, nor twig, nor bud. Never until now.
This thought I read within my vows, I am in him as he in me, like a saddle ravishing a lamb, so it seems to rise the sea. Swallows the whale that swallows it, the ram beats its own head. Upon the city walls that fall as it falls at.
Come let me back into the lily lawn, buy me the roses and the thorns. Upon his back which he hath withdrawn, he may return 1,000,000 more. May follow that first tyrant he might on, when he did split my spirit with his lightnings and enveloped it.
So I'm stretched out naked to the light, my whole soul twitching with the stress of the expected yet surprising strife. A martyrdom of blessedness. Though death came, I could kiss him into life. The life came, I could kiss him into death, and yet nor live nor die.
Yet I never been desires in him, also none of these at all. Now that cosmic chaos from my embers, like a bubble mystical, the night comes down a soaring wedge of flame. Loving men to be the sign to them who yet have never been.
There are 7 keys to the great gate, being 8 in 1 and 1 in 8. Let the body of thee be still, bound by the cerements of will. Corpse rigid, thus thou mayst abort the fidget babes that tease the thought. Next, let the breath rhythm be low, easy, regular, and slow, so that thy being be in tune with the great sea's Pacific swoon. Third, let thy life be pure and calm, sway softly as a windless palm. Fourth, let the will to live be bound preserve its entity. Watch every thought that springs and ends, hour after hour thy vigilance, intense and keen, turned inward news. No atom of analysis, six on one thought securely knit, still every whisper of the wind, so like a flame straight and unstirred,